if he's leading with Queen X, is he like bet folding it, bet calling, and then assuming I always give up on the turn? I'm just not sure what his general game plan is, but I'm assuming that his lead frequency is high enough that he's leading with a huge assortment of hands, and he's not doing stuff like float me out of position and stuff like that. Also, I felt like he called my flop raise kind of quick. I felt that really skewed him towards some sort of a made hand that he knew he was bet calling with, and skewed him away from 7-5, because obviously 7-5 turned the nuts on that board. Left-hand side, I 3-bet ace-jack, suited, for value, obviously getting it in, even that deep getting it into a 4-bet, because, as we've talked about a million times before, his 4-bet frequency is going to go up. His 4-bet frequency is going to go up when the stacks get to about this size. So now I'm really tinkering with what to do on the left-hand side. I have basically the nut nizzles. I have what I would consider to be a fantastic hand on that board. Some of his value range, I don't think he's got ace-king. I don't think he has ace-queen very often because he didn't 4-bet pre-flop. But I'm pretty much either tied with or behind all of his value range. However, he can definitely have King X of clubs as part of his value range to get me to stick it in with worse clubs. Also, I think his extremely likely hand for him is just a pure bluff like Queen 10 or some shit, because of the texture of the board, and it's difficult for most of my 3-betting range to bet call or bet continue. So even if he doesn't get a lot of credit, sometimes it's just so fucking hard for me to continue with hands that he's able to just bluff raise the board. He's just able to just bluff raise me at these stacks. But I want to get it in, and I just think it's too hard to call and then check the turn. Calling and leading the turn is pretty much retarded because it takes away his ability to bluff. And calling and checking the turn is pretty much retarded because it's just too many free cards for him. I'm just not protecting my hand. I think protecting our hand is more important than, it's certainly not nearly as important as stupid-ass live pros think it is, but it's much more important nowadays than it ever has been, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet to some size. Jamming would be fine, but I decide he's not. I decide I have to give him that chance to have done something stupid like raise with 4x and then think that I have some flush draw or something or a bluff and just stick it in. And he has the exact same hand as me, and both of us are drawing dead to the chop. Right hand side, queen out of spades, going to be a good defend out of position. I mean, I just randomly, my sizing is a little small. I think I like 66 or something better, or 62 or something, or 60 or something, whatever. But I go ahead and decide to check raise the ace high dry board. Just nothing to it other than my frequency is that I'm bluffing there sometimes and I'm not bluffing there others. I am thinking about 4-betting here. I might still do it. I don't remember if I did or not. Okay, so sometimes I call here and I like to 4-bet here, and the reason I 4-bet here is because I thought, oh, he's going to look at my stack and be like, oh my god, those are fucking phenomenal stacks to 4-bet. And then he clicks it back on me. And I think that he, as you go from raising pre-flop, obviously huge range, 3-betting pre-flop narrower, 4-betting even narrower than 3-betting, 5-betting even narrower. So as his value range gets even narrower, his bluffs get more. I basically just think he's dicking around, and he thinks I'm going to fold. I mean, once I committed to the 4-bet for value, I basically just committed to sticking my stack in with ace-queen and deciding that it was okay if he coolered me with ace-king or something, and the match was playing aggressive enough to where I'm just not going to worry about that. So again, I would say that like a call is like maybe like standard, but it's just kind of tough to say, to be honest. Left-hand side, we have the, this is a sort of a weird hand and semi-interesting. Right-hand side, I 3-bet just a tiny bit bigger. Left-hand side, I float because he's leading with a lot of hands, like a pretty fucking big range he's leading. And he bets a turn fast. Now, based on his pre-flop calling range, he can have queen 9 here. He can have, he could have made a flush, but I still have showdown value. He could have 4 or 5 offsuit and turn a straight draw. He could have any combo of 7-8, 7-9, or 8-9. He can have, queen 8 randomly and have turn and river a flush. Based on his tankage, I would say there's a decent chance he has a medium-sized spade. Or he even has 10x and he's going for absurdly thin value, thinking I might call him down with 2jx or something like that. Either way, this is pretty weird. And when I was playing the hand and thinking about it, I just decided that it was just really fucking awkward spot. And usually this is a call, but I thought that because of his tankage, he could have king x of spades, or have the king of spades or the queen of spades. So I elected to value raise and hope that curiosity just basically got the best of him. I went with 350 instead of all in for no real reason, to be honest. They're pretty much the same thing. Technically, 350 should get called more. Sometimes he'll think 350 is stronger, and sometimes he'll think all in is stronger. It's kind of a coin toss, and it really just depends on what his mood is that day, what side of the bed he woke up on, or what he happens to think about what's going on in this match, and whether or not what bet size I would use for value and what bet size I would use as a bluff. So there's a ton of factors going into that. Left-hand side, I have the Jack 10, and I check call the flop because he can be c-betting a lot of shit, obviously. The turn comes the queen of hearts. Now, I still have a pair and a backdoor, or I still have a pair and a straight draw, but honestly, my hand is just not that strong. Any heart is a flush draw against me. I'm not doing very good. It's going to be real hard for me to call turn, call river, although I could just commit to calling turn, calling river because he knows how hard it's going to be for me to do that. But I elect not to do that, and I elect to just fold the turn, which is the prudent move. I think a lot of people just go, oh man, look at our equity, 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 and oh my god, they fucking think that just because they have a pair and an opener and a straight draw, they can't fucking fold it. But honestly, it's pretty much a fish move, and it's going to just get your range a little bit too wide in that spot. Right-hand side, we have the ace-7 high. I am going to call sometimes. I'm going to fold sometimes. And I'm going to raise sometimes. However, I like to call here. Now, again, we think that he is, I think that he is raising. I think that he is betting the turn. I think that he's leading a really weird range. I have no idea what it is. Pairs, gut shots. I assume he's just leading all sorts of random shit. And so I elect to call. And then when the king turns, I think he'll just continue with all hearts. Well, usually continue with all hearts. I have the 7 hearts too, which is like a semi-blocker. Not really, but kind of. And I definitely think he'll continue with all kings. And he'll definitely continue with 2 pair and sets and better. Just a no-doubter to me that he'll continue with those things. So I elect to bet a third of the pot on the turn for protection. I didn't want him to draw into queen 9 or some bullshit, or 4-5 or ace 5 or something like that for free. So I leave, and then he check raises, and I call because he just doesn't make sense for anything. Now, in my defense here, this hand is not going to be as easy to play as it looks. It looks like it's super easy to play because it turns out that he check raises and he has nothing, 8, 9 diamonds. But the river's not going to always come down that easy. Sometimes the river will make something and he'll bet, and sometimes I'll decide that I have to call. I'll usually be calling. He's just not representing anything. I'm usually calling, but sometimes it's just going to be tougher for me to call than it would have been there. Obviously, on the 3, I would have snap called him. But it's not easy for him to exploit that line because I'm not going to be betting bet calling ace high on the turn, really, So it's just not really something I'm worried about. Left-hand side, the king-jack pre-flop dominates a decent amount of his king's range and dominates a decent amount of his jack's range. So it's certainly something that is that is strong enough to call pre-flop. Certainly a flop float, backdoor 4th nut flush draw, gut shot, 2 overcards. The turn helps our hand technically because it brings us a double belly buster, but honestly it just doesn't really do much for us in the scheme of things. Whatever. Right hand side check back, middle pair top kicker, and turn 2 pair. Unfortunately, he check folds. That hand, the king jack hand, even though our hand gets better, it sort of gets worse. And also, I think that his bluffing, he doesn't have air that much there. I mean, if he does, he's ahead of our air. I would have to have a specific read for me to call flop jam turn, I would think.